My name. Well, names don't matter much when you've reached my age. Most people around here just call me Granny. I once believed that if you poured your heart, your sweat, your whole life into raising a child, that child would one day hold you close in your old age, that he would be your comfort, your strength, your pride. I gave everything to my son. I gave him my youth, my sleepless nights, the bread off my plate, the clothes off my back, and when I had nothing else left to give, I gave him the biggest gift of all, my house. The very roof built from my years of struggle, my blood, my tears. And yet, one day, my son stood before me and said words I will never forget. "You don't belong here anymore, Mother. You're going to live in an old age home." My hands trembled, my heart broke, and my world collapsed in that moment. This is not just a story about betrayal. It is about the cruelest wound a mother can feel, not from strangers, not from enemies, but from the very child she once carried in her arms. So, listen closely, my dear ones, as I tell you how my son, my own flesh and blood, kicked me out of my home and left me to wither in an old age home. I was not born into riches. My life was woven with hardship from the very beginning. When I married my husband, we had very little, just a few pieces of furniture, a leaky roof, and dreams bigger than our means. But we had love, and with love we managed to survive the storms of life. When my son Daniel was born, our world lit up like 1,000 candles. I remember holding him for the first time, his tiny fingers curling around mine. I thought to myself, this child is my reason, my purpose, my future. But fate is not always kind. My husband fell sick when Daniel was still small. I watched the man I loved wither away, leaving me a widow too young with a child too small to understand loss. I had no time to cry. I had no time to break. I looked into my son's eyes and I knew I had to become both mother and father. So I worked. Oh, how I worked! By day, I cleaned houses, scrubbing floors until my knees ached. By evening, I sewed clothes for neighbors under the dim light of a kerosene lamp. Sometimes I would go to bed hungry just so Daniel could have enough to eat. I still remember one winter night. The cold wind cut through the cracks of our old wooden house. Daniel was shivering, his little hands clutching my arm. I only had one blanket, so I wrapped it around him and stayed awake, teeth chattering until morning came. Years passed, and he grew. I sent him to school with the money I saved from mending torn shirts and polishing other people's shoes. He didn't always have the best clothes, but he had books, and he had my prayers. When he got older, I took a loan to send him to college. The interest was cruel, the burden heavy, but I told myself, one day my son will have a good life, and all this pain will be worth it. I lived with that belief that my sacrifices were seeds, and Daniel was the tree that would one day give me shade in my old age. When he finished his studies, I thought my worries were over, and when I finally saved enough to secure a small house, I thought I had built us both a future. That house was not just bricks and walls. It was my blood, my youth, my sacrifices turned solid. I used to tell Daniel, "Son, this house is yours one day. I built it with my hands, but it will stand for you." I thought I was securing my place in his heart forever. Little did I know, I was building the very walls he would one day throw me out of. For a time, life felt stable. Daniel finished his studies and found work. It wasn't a grand job, but enough to carry him forward. I thought, at last, the storm has passed. Now we can live with some peace. He would still sit with me at dinner, asking, "Mama, did you eat yet?" He would still bring me small gifts, sometimes just a sweet bread or a scarf from the market. Those gestures, however simple, warmed my heart. But then she entered our lives. Daniel brought home a young woman named Clara. She was pretty, no doubt, with sharp eyes and a sharper tongue. The first time we met, she smiled politely, but her eyes wandered around my little house, as if measuring it. Daniel introduced her proudly. "Mama, this is Clara. She's the one I told you about." I welcomed her with all the warmth I had. I prepared tea, laid out the best cups I owned, even offered her some of the dried fruits I had been saving for guests. But Clara barely touched them. She looked uncomfortable, shifting in her chair, as if my home was too small for her presence. From the very beginning, I felt it, something cold beneath her polite words. Still, I stayed quiet. If she makes my son happy, that is enough, I told myself. In time, they married. I prayed it would bring joy into the house. Instead, it brought distance. At first, it was small things. Daniel stopped sitting at the table with me for dinner, saying, "Clara and I already ate." Clara began rearranging the house, moving my things into boxes, saying, "This looks too old-fashioned." Sometimes, when I entered a room, their conversation would stop, leaving me with a silence heavy as stone. One evening I overheard Clara say, "Why do we need her living here? We're married now. Shouldn't we have our own space?" And Daniel, my Daniel, the boy who once clung to my sari when he was scared, answered softly, "You're right." Those words cut through me like a knife. I started to notice how his eyes no longer lit up when he saw me, how his voice carried less patience, less warmth. He began spending more time outside, less time at home, and when he was home, he stayed in his room with Clara, leaving me to eat alone at the kitchen table. The house that I built with my broken back and tired hands began to feel like a stranger's place. My own footsteps echoed like those of an unwelcome guest. One day, I heard Clara say, "Daniel, if this house is ours now, then why does she still act like it's hers?" My heart froze. I wanted to cry out, "Because it is mine! Every brick, every nail, every tear that built these walls came from me!" But I stayed silent. A mother's pride can bend, but it doesn't break easily. I told myself, she is young. She doesn't understand sacrifice. In time, she will learn. But the days grew colder, not warmer. I became invisible in my own home. Meals were cooked without me, plans were made without me, and laughter rang in rooms I wasn't invited into. And then came the words I had feared all along. Clara said it first, but Daniel delivered it. "Mama," he began one evening, avoiding my eyes, "it's better if you move to an old age home. You'll be more comfortable there. We need our privacy." I stared at him, my heart pounding in my chest. An old age home? Me? In the house that I gave him? I whispered, "Son, this is my home. How can you say such a thing?" He shifted uncomfortably, his face hard. "You gave it to me, Mama. You said it yourself. It's mine now. And Clara's right. You'd be better off there." Better off. Those words rang in my ears like thunder. All my sacrifices, all my sleepless nights, all my dreams for him crushed beneath his cold voice. That night, I cried quietly in my room, clutching the photograph of him as a baby, his tiny face, his small hands, the boy who once needed me for everything. How did that boy grow into the man who wanted me gone? I didn't know it then, but the worst was yet to come.
The morning air was heavy, as though even the sun hesitated to rise on what was about to happen. I had barely slept the night before, my eyes swollen from tears. I prayed, maybe Daniel will change his mind. Maybe my son will remember the woman who gave him life. But when the knock came on my bedroom door, my heart knew the truth. Mama? Daniel's voice was firm, almost rehearsed. Get ready. We'll take you today. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching my shawl around me. Take me? Where? I asked, though deep inside, I already knew. To the home, he replied. It will be better for everyone. Better for everyone. Everyone but me. I rose slowly, my knees trembling, not from age, but from the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. With shaking hands, I gathered the few things I still called mine. A photograph of Daniel as a baby, the worn Bible that had carried me through years of struggle, and a shawl my mother once gave me. Everything else, every corner of this house, had already been taken from me in silence. When I stepped into the living room, Clara stood there with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. It's for the best, she said, as though rehearsing a line from a play. I didn't answer her. My heart no longer had space for anger, only grief. Daniel avoided looking at me as we drove. The silence in that car was louder than any storm. I glanced at his hands on the wheel, those same hands I once held when teaching him to walk. They were steady now, firm, strong, but cold. We reached the place, a tall gate, peeling paint, and windows covered with faded curtains. The sign read, Golden Years Senior Care Home. The words felt cruel. There was nothing golden about this moment. Inside, the smell of medicine and old age filled the air. A nurse greeted me with a practiced smile, her voice sweet but tired. Ah, welcome. Another resident, I see. Resident. That word pierced me. I was no longer a mother, no longer the keeper of my home. I was reduced to a resident, a number on their list. Daniel carried my small bag, placing it on the bed assigned to me. The room was plain, 2 iron beds, a dresser with a cracked mirror, and a window that barely opened. My roommate, an old woman with cloudy eyes, looked at me for a moment, then turned away. This will be good for you, Mama, Daniel said softly, finally meeting my eyes. For a fleeting second, I thought I saw guilt flicker there, but it was gone as quickly as it came. I whispered, Daniel, after everything, you leave me here? His jaw tightened. It's for the best. Please don't make this harder. Harder for him, as if my pain was a burden he had to escape. He placed a small kiss on my forehead, then turned away. Clara's heels clicked against the floor as she followed him. The sound of the door closing echoed like thunder in my chest. And just like that, they were gone. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching my shawl. Around me, the room was filled with the faint murmurs of forgotten souls, whispers of people who once had families, homes, and laughter. Now they lived among strangers, waiting for days to pass. I pressed Daniel's baby photograph to my chest, my tears soaking the paper. "You were once my world," I whispered into the emptiness. "And now I am nothing in yours." That night, I lay awake listening to the distant sobs of other mothers abandoned like me. Each cry was a mirror of my own heart. For the first time, I felt truly alone, not just without company, but without belonging. The betrayal of my son, the very soul I had built my life around, echoed in every breath. But as the darkness stretched on, one thought kept me alive. If my son has abandoned me, then maybe God hasn't. If family can turn to strangers, perhaps strangers can become family. And so, with a broken heart, but a flicker of hope, I prepared myself for a new life among the forgotten. Days turned into weeks inside Golden Year Senior Care Home. At first, every moment felt like punishment. I sat by the window, staring at the rusted gate, waiting, hoping Daniel might walk in, say he had made a mistake, take me back home. But he never came. Instead, I learned to live among others who shared the same story. Each face I saw had once been filled with pride for their children, and each heart now carried the scar of abandonment. There was Martha, who once ran a bakery and fed half the town, but was left here by her sons when she became too frail to knead the dough. There was Henry, a retired teacher who had given decades to shaping young minds, only to be forgotten when his own mind began to falter. We were strangers at first, silent, wounded, but slowly we began to speak, sharing our past, our joys, and our grief. And in that sharing, something unexpected grew. A family of the broken, pieced together not by blood, but by compassion. One evening, Martha said to me, "Mary, you still have such light in you. Don't let his betrayal steal it." Her words stayed with me. That night, I prayed, not for Daniel to return, but for the strength to live even without him. The next morning, I joined the others in the courtyard. The air smelled of roses from the small garden, and the sun warmed my shoulders. For the first time, I didn't sit by the gate waiting. I sat among my new companions, listening to their laughter. It was faint, fragile, but it was life. And slowly, I began to heal. Months later, Daniel did return, but not for me. He came with Clara to sign some legal papers. He looked tired, older than his years. When his eyes met mine, I saw no guilt, only distance. A man who had convinced himself he had done the right thing. He greeted me with a forced smile. "How are you, Mama?" I looked at him, my heart both heavy and free. "I am. Better than you think," I replied. He nodded quickly, as though relieved, then turned away. That was the last time I saw my son. And yet, I no longer cried for him, for I realized something powerful. Sometimes, the children we raise may grow into strangers. Sometimes, the love we pour out may not return. But that does not mean our love was wasted. It means we loved truly. Here, among forgotten souls, I found a truth stronger than pain. Family is not only made of blood, but of those who stand by you when the world turns away. Now, as I sit with my pen and paper, telling you my story, I want you to remember this. Never measure your worth by how others treat you. Even if your own flesh and blood turn you away, you are still precious, still deserving of love and dignity. I may have been left in an old age home, but I am not defeated. I am a mother who gave everything, a woman who survived betrayal, and a soul who still shines with hope. And to those who listen to me now, take care of your parents. Cherish them while you have them. Because once they're gone, no house, no wealth, no trip in the world will ever fill that emptiness. This is my story. The story of a mother abandoned, yet not broken.